Hey, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Troy Grable, the host of Teamalytics Leadership Live. Each month we try to take a leadership topic or behavior and have experts in team leadership and coaching give their perspective on the month's topic. And today I'm excited to have one of Teamalytics Vice Presidents of Coaching and Team Solutions and past customer of Teamalytics, Missy Forlani, on the show today. Missy is a people first executive coach. She's a trusted advisor to executives and leaders in a really diverse landscape of industries. She has a relentless pursuit of helping leaders and organizations really get the best versions of themselves. In addition, with her emphasis on leading with courage and an attitude of TGIM, thank God it's Monday, Missy also is often seen presenting at leadership events and keynotes across the country. Having served in multiple senior HR roles, such as chief people officer at Alevo Learning and senior vice president of talent and corporate functions at Aristocrat, a global technology company, and also vice president of global and corporate HR at MGM Resorts. You can tell that Missy has a unique perspective and the skill set to advise senior level leaders and help them align executive talent across their business to align with their business strategies. Her number one focus when she comes into an organization is to help grow high performers, maximize their teams and diversify their leadership group, and also multiply the influence on the leaders that she gets to engage with. She's been doing this for 20 years, both in the private and public sector, coaching leaders and inspiring them to inspire others and also to drive results. She's very decorated and educated with a bachelor's from Central Washington University, a master's in educational leadership from Concordia University, and an HR management certificate from Portland State University, and just to carry a couple more, three different executive coaching certificates. Missy, that's like announcing Tiger Woods, but thank you so much for joining us today on Leadership Live. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Troy. You're too kind, and I really am excited about the opportunity to be here today.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about today because we're going to take a little bit of a step back in Missy's career, really when she was in the trenches and leading the HR functions for these multi-billion dollar organizations. She'll provide us with a firsthand look at when she actually recognized when her leaders needed coaching and development. She'll share what was going on internally, what drove them to invest in a leadership and development in coaching program. Missy will walk us through some tangible success stories and give us a deep understanding of why organizations should invest in leadership development and coaching. And most importantly, how the heck do we implement this thing across, our organization in a tailored way? But Missy, before we jump in, real quick, I'd love for you to give our audience just a quick understanding of how did you learn about Teamalytics, and then what brought you here?
Sure, thank you. So I was first introduced to Teamalytics a little over 11 years ago when I was in a VP of corporate and global HR role at MGM Resorts International. And our learning and development team had selected Teamalytics as the provider for 360 assessments and executive coaching for all vice presidents and above in the organization. So had identified about 200 leaders to engage in this process. And as a participant at first, and then ultimately someone that was able to be a champion for it for the organization, I became obsessed with the tool, the data, but most importantly, the impact that the coaching was having with our leaders. And just those slight shifts in behavior change, was really a game changer. So at the time, I was supporting both C-suite and the corporate function leaders. And I was able to see firsthand how it was ultimately impacting how they showed up as leaders, but then as it cascaded the engagement of their teams. And so it was a true game changer on how we wanted to show up as leaders to ensure our team experience was what they could then help our guest experience be, which was nothing short of phenomenal. And we knew that by having really engaged team members, that they would then be engaged with guests and then come back. So it was sort of that service profit chain. But I became a super fan of Teamalytics, and I have been ever since. So now, 11 years later, fast forward, I've been through a couple of other senior HR roles since then.
Yeah.
I've been able to fulfill a career aspiration of becoming a coach for Teamalytics. So about 4 months ago, I joined the team, and now I have the privilege of working with leaders across the globe to become the best versions of themselves and impact the employees that they direct and oversee. But most importantly, I think I have a heart for how you show up when you go home. You're a better parent, a better mom, a better daughter, a better sister, just a better person by shifting your behavior to really lean in to be the best version. So really, really, really grateful to be here.
Yeah, same here, same here. Well, you've implemented, you've coached, and you've managed leadership development and coaching programs. So I'm excited about your perspective of the why and the how of our topic today. You know, why leadership development? Why not something that I can just pull off the shelf? Or and then if I say yes, I want leadership development, how the heck do I get through this and implement it? So I really look forward to talking through that. But more importantly, I want to really hone in on how you leveraged leadership development and coaching to build high performing teams. I know you did a great job of that throughout your career, so it would be exciting to jump into that.
Great.
But could you first just kind of maybe eliminate some of the noise? But in our industry, in this very broad competitive space that we're in, we have a lot of different leadership programs out there. We've got the 1-2 day types of programs. We have online do-it-yourself programs. We have on-demand programs. We have large organizations that are implementing these learning management systems that have programs in them. Can you explain what we mean here at Teamalytics, what we mean by leadership development and coaching, and how and why is it different than those others?
Absolutely. So, leadership development and coaching to me is really that catalyst for transformation for organizations. And people are our greatest asset, and we get work done through people. So, what differentiates your company from another is how your people show up, how your leaders engaged, and then ultimately what product you're selling or the customers that you're serving. They are the ones that benefit from that. So, when I think about Teamalytics and leadership development and coaching, it's about the individual and collective potential of leaders. And that if you can align the strengths of leaders with business goals and outcomes, and then equip those leaders to create trust and accountability with their teams, it can have a profound effect not only on your culture, but definitely your bottom line. And so that investment in your leaders and them being the best version of themselves to drive your business forward is how you're going to beat the competition or how you're going to maximize results. And then the individual coaching that I think is so unique to Teamalytics is that it's about behavior. It's not theoretical. It's not if you were to tweak this. It was really about like what you can specifically do to modify your behavior either up or down in a way that people can hear you better, see you better, understand you better, and you're unlocking and recognizing blind spots you might not have known you had, provide you with some insights and data to really give you that foundation of what can I and should I be working on. And then the coach helping you really navigate that true behavior change. Because if you combine that, both the investment and development and then that personalized coaching, you can equip leaders to lead with purpose and intentionality. And I've seen it firsthand multiple times and over again, the profound effect it can have on teams and on performance. So again, super fan of Teamalytics.
Cool. Thank you for giving the definition and then also just kind of breaking it apart a little bit. I do agree. I think that coaching element is very unique in taking it through the program a year long. I mean, that is life, like you said, transforming for sure. So let's give our audience a good picture of, when you were walking through, whether it was MGM or any of the companies that you've really rolled out a program in, before they really realized that they had an issue, or that they needed development, or that their culture or their teams were unhealthy. What were the things that you can describe for our audience that, hey, if these are happening, or if you're recognizing this, you may need to investigate a little bit more. So what were some of the things that were happening around internally at the organizations that clued you in to say, hey, we really need to look at something?
Yeah. Such a great question, Troy. I think it's like, what problem are you trying to solve? Like,
Right.
why do we need to make this investment? Like, why do we need to make sure we double down on leadership development, coaching, and
Right.
making sure our leaders are really aligned with where we want to go? It's not unique to MGM, like you said. Any organization I've been in and been a part of, or that I've consulted with beyond that, is that there are pockets of greatness, right? Where you have really high performing, high functioning teams that are getting it right. And then you'll have other departments where you'll notice things, there's visible cracks, right? Lack of accountability, missing deadlines, maybe leaders working in silos. Often you'll see leaders that prioritize tasks or outcomes actually over people, and either
Yeah.
being super high conflict teams, or more often I've observed conflict avoidance. You just avoid it, move on. Maybe poor communication or lack of clarity. So those are the types of symptoms that show up in teams that aren't being super intentional about aligning themselves in a way that their leaders know what the expectations are, and then helping to equip them on how to behave and setting the stage for how we want you to behave. So, it's the most unhealthy teams and organizations also are really reticent to offer feedback, and they don't trust each other to give or receive feedback. And so I think that's a critical component. And also, folks sometimes just don't feel like my leaders care about my success and well being. This is about the bottom line. So,
Yeah.
how do you take all of that and look at all the things that are getting in the way of being a high performing team? And what do you do about it?
And so when organizations make that decision, we're going to make this investment. Um, how, what did you witness happening, organizationally, to teams, to the people, it's just an individual person, as they became aware of, holy cow, this is what the perception of people around me are of me, and how
Yeah.
I work with them, or how I make them feel. When they became aware of this data, um, and started moving through a development coaching program, what are the things that you witnessed in the change of, again, organization, teams, people?
Yeah. Yeah. Specifically at MGM, where we implemented Teamalytics, it was about alignment
Mm.
and clarity. It was really about having intentional leadership where we were encouraging and fostering cross-functional collaborations within teams. And that behavioral data gave us that foundation to have a common language to talk and celebrate each other's strengths, and be able to tap into that team diversity, but also be able to talk about our constraints and what I could do a little bit different or better to show up for someone and meet them where they were, without blame or judgment. And so it created this like safe space to be, we're all in it together. We're all coming, we're showing up to do our best. But now we know what the expectation is about how and when we show up. So diversity started to be really celebrated, that I'm different from you, and that's what makes us great.
Mhm.
And we also saw more sort of empathy based leadership and trust building and overall role clarity. But as you might imagine, if you're not super familiar with MGM, there's 12 properties on the Las Vegas Strip that are all part of the MGM portfolio and family. And I think before Teamalytics, we were almost competing against each other. Luxor, Excalibur, Bellagio, Aria, all the different properties were trying to kind of we were in competition with each other. And as a result of this, we actually came together as a portfolio to say, if we collectively come together and have this alignment, we'll beat our competition down the street, not within each other. And the metrics were super compelling. I mean, the success story was like 30% boost in team engagement scores across the portfolio, 15% increase in guest service scores within 12 months of implementing Teamalytics. So it wasn't just we were feeling better and we were more aligned as a team and we were coming together in collaboration. We actually saw the fruits of our labor from that investment. And I think that's also, as folks think about why invest or how invest, you're able to point to it does impact the bottom line when you invest in your leaders. And so that was our success story from Teamalytics.
It's pretty neat to see because, and correct me if I have my numbers wrong, but I think you mentioned early on it was about 200 people
Yes.
from
Mhm.
vice president on up to the
Yeah.
C-suite. So the impact, I mean, of 200 people across all those properties and all the staff and people below them, I mean, like you said earlier, they are the face of the MGM property, you know, when they're working with a customer that's there staying on the
Yeah.
property. So just neat to see that how that just cascaded downward to the rest of the team. Really cool. So I guess the one question that I think I hear a lot, especially from senior executives, like, why invest in it? I mean, we're here, we're leading, we're doing great. Why invest in a program that's going to, potentially open you up and take some things away from maybe your workday, or maybe it's just, you know, why we want to invest in the top level versus, those that are below them. So could you walk us through a couple of answers towards the reason why leadership development, Missy?
And definitely, I think the companies that get it right understand that your talent is your competitive advantage. And by investing in your talent, you reduce turnover in staff, you elevate the level of service for your customers, you drive innovation. And if you invest in your talent, then people come back or they buy your product or they stay engaged. And so you can invest in all the other areas of the business, but MGM example, there are really nice, amazing properties across the Las Vegas Strip that have great restaurants, that have great day clubs, that have great, concerts and venues. But what draws you to come back to a certain place is the way you feel when you show up and how you're treated. And so I think we recognize that early on. That is the competitive advantage. So if the guest experience mirrors the employee experience, then we need to invest in our leadership to treat our employees in a way that they feel engaged and inspired and excited to show up for work. That your leader is going to recognize you and celebrate you and champion you. And if you feel that way from your boss and your leader, then how much better will you show up for the guest and be inspired? So we noticed that the 360 assessment tool for Teamalytics really helped our leaders understand how they were being perceived. And some of them, were not aware. They thought they were showing up one way and they were informed that they were showing up another way. And so it gave us sort of the platform to have those honest conversations, and we could start to address issues and recognize the behaviors in each other. And that started that cultural shift of how I show up. I'm that role model. I'm championing this. People are watching me. It really was a game changer. I can give you an example. I remember a leader at the beginning of one of the days that we first started this. So we broke the 200 leaders into cohorts, and they were in about groups of 30 to 40. And we started this process. And I remember a vice president that I knew pretty well came in and at the beginning of the session, and he sort of had a sidebar with me and said, I am just too busy for this. I can't believe we're spending time on this right now. I already know about leadership. I already know all of this. This is going to be a complete waste of time. And, I just said, well, I'm hoping for the best here. I hope you enjoy the day, and let's check in. And he started off by sitting in the back of the room, arms crossed, very negative, very much thinking that, how is this going to change my life? I've been in this industry for 30 years. I pretty much know how I need to show up and behave. And it was almost, I would say, life changing for him. 6 hours later, he came back up to me at the end of the session and said, hands down, most impactful professional development he'd ever had in his 30-year career, how he wished he had been exposed to it earlier so he could have been a better leader for his team. Like, I almost got emotional when he was sharing this with me.
Yeah.
And so I was completely blown away. And certainly as I thought about it on my drive home, I'm sure he went home and was an even better father, husband, a better person as a result of it as well. And it was just to have someone that sort of negative come in thinking this is another flavor of the month, this is what we're doing today, but to really take it to heart to say, I appreciate having the feedback. I appreciate having the insights, and I know what I can do to be better. It was, game changer.
That's neat. And I can only imagine, like you said, it carries on to, all aspects of his life or her life, and just something that I think is, really eye-opening to all of us. I mean, how we present ourselves, we think one way, but what are the people around us really experiencing? And it is a big reason why. Because you can pull the best out of organizations and pull the best out of people when you're treating them the way that they should be treated.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we get to a point where we're like, okay, this is big. This is a big move for an organization. I mean, 200 people, and I know we have other customers that are more than that, but to get to that decision point, like, okay, we're here, we're gonna do it. How do you lay the foundation of implementing this across such a large group of people? And then maybe even just how do you set the foundation of, even if it's 10 people, because it can be, that little. So
Yeah.
how do you implement something that's tailored to your organization and do it right?
A really great question, Troy. I think it's multifaceted. Probably the most important thing is that it starts at the top, right? The leaders at the top really care about and have buy-in and commitment for it, because if they just write the check and then expect the lower organization to behave a certain way, but if you look up to your senior leaders and they're not walking the talk and modeling the behavior, then it's like, well, they say they want us to behave this way, but they don't. So I think it really does take that commitment at the highest level of the organization to say, I believe in development. I believe in growing our people. I believe that our culture is important. And then once that's sort of established, then it's really about making sure people are on the journey with you, right? Those internal stakeholders, it can't just be an HR thing. It can't be a learning and development thing. It's got to be a leader thing. It's got to be, I'm responsible for the way that I show up. I'm responsible with how I engage with my team, not, HR is doing this to me. And by co-designing it with folks in the organization and getting buy-in and ambassadors and culture champions throughout the organization in the operational portions of the business and getting them really engaged, that's what makes it sticky, and that's what gets it embedded versus like, oh, this is another thing HR wants us to do.
Yeah.
And so really getting leaders to understand and commit and buy in, and then also tying it to the business strategy. It can't be this like flavor of the month or drive by professional development, or we're going to do this
Right.
once and then it doesn't come back, right? It needs to be, how does this make our business better? And how do we help leaders see how it makes our business better? And then align that so that people understand that this isn't a waste of time, that you're not giving up a 6-hour day to do this, but that you've just spent a day breathing life into the leaders that are then going to go out and lead the teams that you serve in whatever size organization you have, from 10 to 100,000. I think there's all the way in the middle, that's super important. And then the last and another important component is inspecting what you expect. If you really, really want to have this embedded and you want to make sure you cascade it the right way in your organization, then you have to make sure you catch people doing it right, that you hold people accountable and capable of delivering and being aligned around this. Otherwise, if you make this big investment and then you don't follow through on it and continue on, then it is just a flavor of the month. And,
Yeah.
that's not what you want.
Well, I think you made a couple great points there. Not only having champions or ambassadors to help roll it out, um, you also are bringing in, if you will, those line managers, those leaders of the different departments, that because each leader is different, right? And they see things differently from each other. And John over here has this issue, and Sally over here has this issue, but they're two different teams, and they want to know that they can actually get something that's going to solve the problem versus, like you said, just an HR push. One question I did have for you, as one of the HR leaders, or how involved was HR with the program? Not just participating, but ensuring people are going through and going through accountability, and seeing reports and stuff. And I think when you were with MGM, correct me if I'm wrong, but it may have been mostly paper back then, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's all automated, so I'm sure it was a little bit more of a heavier lift then. But how involved is the HR leader, or the champions in HR?
I mean, they're critically important, right? They're in the people business and they partner with the business. And if you've got the right HR model where you have true HR business partners, you are collectively coming up alongside leaders, helping them to embrace this and roll it out and really be a true partnership. So critically important. I think obviously all the back end functions, administrative way to facilitate it and organize it and get whether it's the workshops or the teams, et cetera. So, but they also just are such, important champions. I think it's them also coaching the leaders that this is not an HR initiative. I'm here to partner with you, enable you, put the tools, resources, and help put the structures in place. But the actual true adoption and buy-in needs to be by the leader, and then sharing and showing them how that benefits them and their team. Lower turnover, higher engagement, higher guest satisfaction scores, all the things that make your job easier as a leader. The better leader you are, the better your people are, the easier your job is.
Well, we could definitely end on that note. I love that. Well, I do like to have just some fireside, just like quick fire questions, just simple answers. But and I know you've only been here 4 months, so this answer may change after you get into it a little bit. But what is your favorite behavior, leadership behavior to coach, or behaviors to coach?
Really good question. All the behaviors are awesome, and I think coaching, it's really individual, right? And so for that person, that it's their most important thing they want to tweak. But I would say probably for me, it's self-critical behavior is my favorite one to coach so far, because I think that leaders sometimes get promoted quickly when they're great individual performers, right? They were great at their job. And so now we're going to make you a manager, or we're going to make you a leader, and you get maybe not over promoted, but you just get promoted, and then you kind of are in a role that you might not be fully equipped to be in. And then all of these self-doubt and things, the voices in your head start to say, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not ready for this role. And you can kind of have this negative self-talk that I think can be overwhelming. And I would even think, because I do coach a lot of women, that imposter syndrome, and for women especially, you get that, am I good enough? Should I have a seat at this table? Am I ready for this role? And so helping folks know that, like, being self-critical and having high standards and expectation of yourself is healthy, and you should. But it's that voice in your head. How loud is it, and how long do you listen to it? If you make a mistake on Monday, do you get up and dust yourself off and move on, or are you still beating yourself up about it on Thursday? And how is that still serving you? And so being able to help leaders reframe from I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough, to I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm getting better, and helping to shift that behavior, I think that can be really powerful for folks. So that's one of the reasons I like coaching that behavior.
Cool. What's your favorite productivity hack for leaders?
Oh, this is a good one. I think it's my proponent of the 2-minute rule. So if it takes you less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. You open an email and it takes you less than 2 minutes to respond, get it done and get it out the door, because it minimizes sort of that mental clutter. And then also, like, I clicked on this email 7 times and I haven't responded to it yet. And I go to the next one. It's like, no, you can deal with it. Great. And if not, then put it on your calendar, your to-do list, to do it at another time, and sort of freeing yourself up that if you could do it in 2 minutes, do it. And if you don't, come back to it. And that really came from, I think, from the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. Really a productivity hack that served me well. So that'd probably be one of my favorite productivity hacks.
That's a great one. What's the best leadership advice you've been given thus far in your career?
I have two, so I'm going to do two. One is assume positive intent, right? Assume the best about people. No one gets up in the morning trying to do a terrible job, letting people down, not doing what you expect them to do. Like, assume positive intent. What's going on with them, and asking, "Are you okay? Is everything okay with you?" And starting from that spot.
Yeah.
The second one, more personally, was listen more and talk less, and say thank you when you receive feedback. Which for me, when I was, and even now, right, your initial reaction is the rebuttal, or to get defensive, or to this is why, and just to say thank you for that feedback. And then by doing that, you build trust, you build credibility, you build relationships.
Yeah. Well, that is great, because I do agree. I think the feedback piece, you can get really defensive sometimes, and you just have to accept it. There's a nugget somewhere, and you got to find it.
Absolutely.
Well, Missy, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait. I know you're going to be on here later this summer and so forth, but I can't thank you enough. This was a great insight of just what you went through as a leader in HR, and how to, really discern what the right program, leadership and coaching program is for your leaders, and then how to implement it, and what are some of those key points to really look for. And I can't agree with you more. It does start at the top, because people want to follow leaders. And guess what, guys? If you're a leader, you're at the top. So we all have to really embrace the development piece. So thank you again for that. And hey, next month, on June 20th, I'll be sitting down with Teamalytics' Kai Muncie. Kai's going to draw from his experience. He was a deputy director for the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and he has a big heart for growing and developing future leaders. So he's going to really draw from that experience and share a little bit more on the importance of us, developing and even finding those great leaders within your organization. So thanks again for joining us today. I will have a QR code up here if you're interested in having a team assessment. It's free. We'll do a 45 minutes to an hour debrief, and it will give you a great understanding of how your team feels about each other and how the team is functioning. So take a look at this QR code, scan it. It takes about 10 minutes to finish. We'll see you next month on June 20th. Thanks again, Missy.
Thank you, Troy. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.